Hello, my name is Matthew Pfeiffer with mattpfeiffercoaching.com. Welcome to my YouTube channel. On this channel, I create videos about toxic, narcissistically abusive relationships and self-development. And if that's something that you're interested in, make sure you hit the subscribe notification and the bell notification so you're notified each and every time I upload a new video. I upload new videos on this channel 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. And this video and this channel is sponsored by BetterHelp. If you need more help than what this video can provide, make sure you connect with an online therapist through BetterHelp. Oftentimes it is more affordable and it is also a lot faster to be able to get in. And when you use the links down below, you'll be able to get 15% off your first month. So with all that being said, let's get into today's video. So today we are talking about signs that it is time for you to leave your relationship. This is one of the most common questions that I get when I do a video or if I'm meeting with people in a one-on-one. People want to know, when is it time to leave? When should I give up on the relationship? Because on the flip side, you also oftentimes hear a lot of great stories from people who are in healthy relationships about how they were able to get through the bad times and how they got through sometimes even infidelity and even some major issues. And so it can be very confusing to people who are in toxic relationships to know whether or not they should try to weather the storm or if this is something that's completely different. So number one, the very first sign that it is time for you to leave the relationship is, and a question that you need to ask yourself is, am I safe? Am I safe in this relationship? Not just safe in terms of physical, but not excluding physical. Obviously, if there's physical abuse in the relationship, you need to leave. But we also need to be talking about psychological. We need to be talking about emotional safety. We need to be talking about financial safety. If we have a person that is controlling the entire relationship, and you are not safe, or if you don't feel safe because of that, then it is time for you to leave. We have to understand that safety is one of the basic fundamental blocks, one of the basic needs of a person. If you don't feel safe, you are going to lack a lot of other substance within the relationship. You're going to lack fulfillment within the relationship. Not only that, but you're going to constantly feel like you're walking on eggshells. You're not going to know whether or not whether or not you're coming or going, and it's going to lead to a lot of cognitive dissonance. And oftentimes when we're talking about a trauma bond, and I've talked about trauma bonds on this channel before, you're going to feel like it's your responsibility to keep yourself safe by trying to please your other partner, the one that is inciting unsafe conditions. And you're going to think that you're a part of the problem, and it leads to a lot of confusion down the line. Sign number two, or a question that you need to ask yourself, is that you need to ask yourself, am I free to be me? Can I be my most authentic self with this person? Or am I holding back? Am I telling this person the things that they just want to hear? And people who struggle with people pleasing oftentimes end up with people who they need to do this with, where you're constantly telling them, and this kind of goes hand in hand with sign number one, is that you're constantly telling them the things that they want to hear because maybe you feel like you're not going to be safe, this is going to piss the person off, or you feel like this person has one foot out the door. You feel like they can leave at any moment. You feel like if you say something authentically, if you have a disagreement, this person might possibly get upset and cause harm, or they might leave the relationship altogether. So it's very important that you can and are able to be your most authentic self within the relationship. Sign number three, I almost said four. Sign number three, or question number three that you need to ask yourself, is that you need to ask yourself, am I honoring my own values? Can't tell you how many times I go live on TikTok pretty much every single morning, Monday through Friday. And one of the questions I always ask is something along the lines of, if people are honoring their values. Are you giving up your job? Are you sacrificing your job? Some people, if you already have children from a previous relationship, when you meet a new partner, they find themselves sacrificing their own children to be with this partner, sacrificing college degrees, sacrificing goals that they might have, sacrificing priorities, sacrificing sleep to be with this person. You might be sacrificing promotions, because you know that if you begin to elevate yourself, or if you continue to go to the gym, or if you continue to hang out with your friends, continue to hang out with your family, things that were very important to you prior to getting into this relationship, you know that this not only is it going to upset this person, but also oftentimes, especially in a toxic relationship, they will make it seem as though these things are all problematic. Oftentimes, the reason why someone who's toxic, controlling, manipulative, or narcissistic, the reason why they will make it seem that these things are problematic is because they know that they are self-empowering. And one of the things that people who are toxic want to do is they want to devalue you so then they can have a lot more control. So I think we're at number 5 now. Am I being held back? Is this person holding me back? Are they holding me back from my potential? It's okay to have differences. It's okay to have differences of opinion. But if you feel like you're constantly being held back, and if you feel like you're not following your potential, you're not following through, and this kind of goes hand in hand with what we were just talking about. If you feel like you are not maximizing who you are, it's problematic. And the problem with this is that eventually this is going to lead to resentment down the road. And you hear me talking so often about resentment. And oftentimes, this is the reason why a lot of times people think and ask the question, am I the narcissist? Am I the problem? Because when resentment builds up, all of a sudden there's a lot of chaos, not only within ourselves, but also within the relationship, because eventually that resentment is going to boil over. We have to understand and we have to know that in a healthy relationship, your partner is going to want the best for you. They're going to want you to be happy. They're going to want you to be fulfilled. And if you're in a toxic relationship that's holding you back, and ultimately the reason why you're being held back is because they want to keep control. And again, the resentment cannot be understated. Resentment is one of the number one killers of relationships. And so if you notice that resentment is getting built up because of you being held back and you're constantly sacrificing to be with this person, understand that your relationship will have an expiration date. Another question that we need to ask ourselves, and another sign that we need to be looking at on whether or not we need to end this relationship, is something that gets talked about so often. Am I here for the potential? Am I here because this person potentially can change? One of the things, and if you go back to a video I did about trauma bonds, one of the things I talk about so often is people holding on to false hope. And when you're holding on to false hope, oftentimes it strengthens that trauma bond and it makes it more difficult for you to leave. And that false hope, a lot of times what that is that you're looking at the good in the person, the potential. You're holding on to what you may have experienced early on in the relationship, what the potential that you think that they have. Oftentimes, we may even have that person on a pedestal because of our own insecure attachment style, and because we have this person on a pedestal, we know what they're capable of doing, but we're not actually present in the here and the now of what they actually are doing and how they really actually are treating you on a day-to-day basis. So it's important for you to begin to realize and for you to look at, are their actions aligned with their intention? And if not, then guess what? It is time to move on. If you know that they can be good or you still see the good in them, it's important for us to understand that in some situations that the good that you see is really just the bad in disguise. One of the things that you hear me talking about so often, and I talk about in my lives, is that we tell our children all the time, don't take candy from strangers. Why? Why do we tell them that? Because the candy and the good that you see from that person is really just the bad in disguise, that they're offering you something to allow for your guard to come down. But what happens is that ultimately, we all know, I'm not going to talk about it here on YouTube. We know what ends up happening when someone is faking it, right? And that's what happens when you are enamored with someone's potential rather than staying present with who that person actually is. Sign number, I think we're on 5 or 6. Am I the only one trying in this relationship? Am I the only one putting in effort? Am I the only one looking to improve communication? Am I the only one looking for solutions? Am I the only one that's trying to talk things out? Am I the only one who's looking for a therapist? Things of that nature. One of the things that happens oftentimes, especially for people who struggle with codependency, one of the things that they do is that oftentimes they don't recognize that they're the only ones working in the relationship. That often they will talk to someone who's toxic or narcissistic. That person will say, yeah, I agree, let's go to therapy. Then you're finding the therapist. You're setting the appointments. You're the one picking up the toxic person, going there. And you're the one actually pushing the narrative, not recognizing that they're actually not doing anything, that they're not putting forth any effort. And one of the things that happens is that because you're putting forth so much effort, You think that they're changing and they're really actually not, because we're projecting what it is that we want onto that other person. This next one is a big one. And this next one is something that happens after the person has already betrayed you. Maybe they have cheated. Maybe you caught messages in their phone, or whatever the case actually is, or however it is that they betrayed you, or whatever dynamic has caused some sort of trust issue or pain. You need to ask yourself, you need to really, really dive deep here. Can I really actually forgive this person? One of the things that you're not going to hear from me, you hear it from a lot of other people, but it is not true, where people say you need to forgive everyone. That's not true. And even if you can forgive them, you need to go deeper into that question. You need to ask yourself, can I really get over this? Can I really get past them cheating? However many times it was, even if it was one time or whatever the case is, whatever excuse that they're giving, you need to ask yourself, can I really eventually heal and move beyond this? The reason why it's so important, so vital for us to ask ourselves that question, and for us to be honest, and for us to be okay with that answer being no, is that if you can't get past it, it's perfectly fine. You don't have to forgive, and you don't have to get past it. You don't have to get over it, even though there are people who will tell you that that's true, or tell you that that is the case, but it isn't. You have to understand that if you can't get over it, you are going to spend the rest of that time that you have with that person, consciously and or subconsciously, punishing them for what they've done. And so what happens through that process is that you think that you're punishing them for what they've done, not realizing that you're actually punishing yourself. And what happens through this process, and let's assume that they actually change. Let's throw out narcissism. Let's throw out toxic relationship. Let's say that this person actually changes. Because you can't get past it, you are still going to continue to punish them, and that person is eventually going to leave. Or if they don't change, you're eventually going to leave and carry that trauma into another relationship with trust issues. So you have to understand, if you stay in a relationship where damage has been done and you can't get over it and you stay in that relationship, understand that your relationship has an expiration date. Eventually you and or that person are going to leave, and or as you stay in that relationship, it's going to lack fulfillment. It's not going to ever be what you thought it was if you can't get past it. Now, understand that even if you can, it's still going to take some work. So it's important for us to understand that as well. The next one is, we need to ask ourselves, am I fulfilled in this relationship? So this kind of goes hand in hand with something that we were talking with, one of the signs we were talking about before. Am I actually fulfilled? Do I actually enjoy being in this relationship? Am I projecting my needs onto my partner? Am I just kind of going through the motions? Do I not really actually enjoy my partner? Do I not really enjoy being with them? We have to understand that it's not our partner's job to keep us happy, despite the myths that you hear out there. So and so wasn't happy, and this and that. It's actually your responsibility. And at the same time, if we feel like we are lacking fulfillment, and if we are not fulfilling ourselves with happiness, guess what? We have a responsibility to take care of that ourselves. And if we're not, guess what? We need to make sure that we make some changes in that dynamic. We need to be very self-aware. So many people these days lack self-awareness on who it is that they are, on their own happiness, on their own emotional state, on whether or not they're being present with their own current emotions. And we have to understand that it is our responsibility to not only communicate those things to our partner, but also to acknowledge them ourselves. Last thing is that we need to ask ourselves, if there was any type of problem, any sort of dynamic, we need to ask ourselves, did I exhaust all options? Oftentimes people leave relationships, they haven't looked at therapy, they haven't read any books, they haven't done anything, they haven't met with anyone, they haven't met with any coaches, they haven't exhausted all options to know whether or not they should leave a relationship. And then you end up in situations where people regret it. I meet with people all day that are in toxic relationships. And oftentimes what will happen is that people are not sure whether they should stay or whether they should go. One of the things that I tell them that they need to do is they actually need to do their own research. They actually need to do their own homework. And what happens is that everyone goes through their own stages of change when it comes to difficult decisions. Sometimes you may know that that you need to leave, but you're just not quite ready. And oftentimes, the way that we move through those stages of change is for us to research and for us to educate ourselves. Sometimes we know we need to leave, and you need to educate yourself on exit plans, on what's going to happen if you leave, on the divorce system in your state or in your area. And once you begin to kind of research and once you begin to do homework and once you exhaust all of your options, it makes those decisions a lot easier. Not easy, but easier. So thank you guys very much. If you guys need more help than what this video can provide, make sure you guys go to the links below, connect with a therapist with BetterHelp. If you use the links down below, you'll get 15% off your first month with BetterHelp. With all that being said, thank you guys very much, and I will see you in the next video.